Retro.
What's up, guys? This is Daniel Logan, Boba Fett from Attack of the Clones, The Clone Wars, Book of Boba, Skywalker Saga game, and hopefully many more things in the Star Wars galaxy. You are listening to Jay and Dennis on Podcast Stardust. Yep, this is the way I've spoken.
Welcome to Podcast Stardust. This is the fully armed and operational podcast dedicated to Star Wars news, reviews, and discussion. I'm Dennis Keithley.
And I'm Jay Krebs.
And it's Friday. We're finishing off another week with a discussion of some recent Star Wars news. Jay, you want to go ahead and give everyone our social media contacts before we get into all of the latest?
Absolutely, Dennis. We are on Facebook and Instagram conveniently at Podcast Stardust.
All right. The dish is the line. The signal's boosted to maximum output. The shield's down. We're now broadcasting to the galaxy. This is the week's Star Wars news. So up first, we have what a lot of outlets are calling a Star Wars Starfighter first look, but I mean, really it's not, because we got that from StarWars.com itself a few weeks ago when they announced that they've gone into production. But what we do have is Shawn Levy having put on Instagram an image of Ryan Gosling and Flynn Gray from the set of Starfighter that was taken somewhere in the Mediterranean Sea. And it's not much to go by other than they're in their costumes. The Mediterranean is in the background. The location data from Instagram says that they are near Sardinia, Italy, to be more specific. And they have what looks to be some very Star Wars looking type costumes here. What do you think about this, Jay?
Oh, this is so exciting. I mean, these little breadcrumbs that we're getting, and, like you said, this is everywhere right now. I mean, you scroll through any social media that, you follow, and boom, it's right here. But this just reminds me of, the feelings that we were starting to experience before, the movies like Rise of Skywalker would come out, and you'd get these little tidbits of things like, ooh, like, what does this mean? And what could this possibly be, showing? Like, what planet could they be on? So I think it's just brilliant that they're dropping these little breadcrumbs, and I'm so here for it. What do you think?
Yeah, me too. A couple observations. One, I'm looking at the Variety article that's talking about this, but you can find it on Deadspin, The Hollywood Reporter. Every outlet is covering this, as you just mentioned here. But they're talking about how this is a shift from prior Star Wars adventures set mostly across the galaxy on desert planets like Tatooine and Jakku. That's a bit selective to say, but there's not a lot of ocean type planets that show up in Star Wars movies. Of course, we got Mon Calamari and Moncala, and we've seen that planet in Mandalorian. But the biggest sea type water scene we've seen in Star Wars was on Naboo when they went through the planet core type of thing. So this is a very interesting image. And for all we know, they're just happen to be standing somewhere near the sea, and they're not actually taking full advantage of that. We'll find out.
Yeah. Bear with me. I'm thinking like Pabu. And I think that's probably because we're reading Star Wars Sanctuary right now. So Pabu is in my brain pan. But, you think about it, and it's kind of very Mediterranean-like. So who knows? I mean, the galaxy is a very large place. And yeah, I'm just pulling that one out of my brain pan. But that'd be a cool tie-in.
Right. And then, of course, I can't remember exactly where it was in Italy that they used for Naboo when they did palace scenes. So, there's also that. But here's the other thing that occurs to me. This is a lot more than what they've been giving us for The Mandalorian and Grogu.
Yes.
The Mandalorian and Grogu has all been like sizzle reel type stuff that they're showing to a very exclusive audience at celebrations. Celebration London, Celebration Japan, and this, that, and the other. But we don't have a trailer for that movie, which comes out in 8 months at this point. And I would kind of expect some sort of a teaser for it any day now.
Mm-hmm.
But you don't have Jon Favreau or Dave Filoni leaking any type of images from that. I suppose one of the reasons for that could be that we know what the Mandalorian looks like. We know what Grogu looks like. And so much of the stuff we've seen from the show itself could be giveaways if they start giving those type of images. Favreau and Filoni just aren't the types to tease that stuff anyway. But still, it just seems a little weird that this movie, which doesn't come out for 2 years or year and a half, I suppose, at this point we got more teaser images for it, which is one than what we have for the Mandalorian.
Well, I think you nailed it. I mean, we're very familiar with the Mandoverse, and so anything that could potentially come out of that is going to be more, even more speculative, I guess. But then again, with this, it's just so new. It's so different. So
yeah,
I'm here for it.
And the other thing that occurs to me is like, I don't even know how to describe it, but those costumes, as minimalist as they are, do really look very Star Wars.
Oh, yes.
There's something about the cut of the shirt that Flynn is wearing that reminds me of Han Solo's like undershirt that we'd always see underneath his vest or whatever. Even just the way that the clothes hang off of them there, and the hairstyles for that matter, seem very much Star Wars.
Yes, and Gosling is so owning this. I mean, you could just tell he's all about this here.
Yeah. So, anyways, I'm excited for this movie. Don't get me wrong, I'm really excited for the Mandalorian and Grogu, but they've just treated it as such not an event. After not having, by the time that movie comes out, it'll have been 7 years since we had a Star Wars movie, and they're just so nonchalant about it. They're not building any hype for it right now beyond, like I said, a few previews at Celebration, but that they just haven't shown to everybody else yet. But here we are, it's like Shawn Levy can't help himself but share images. He's so excited about this. So
right. Hey, we loving it.
Absolutely. So keep them coming. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I don't want to be completely spoiled, but hey, if you want to give us some breadcrumbs, we'll take them. So moving on to some television and Disney Plus news, Andor's picked up another Emmy. So I did not realize last week when we talked about the 4 Emmys Andor had won, that those were like the technical Emmys that were already handed out during a separate presentation, that the bulk of the Emmys were going to be given out this past weekend. And so, Andor picked up a 5th Emmy, a good one, a big one. They're all good, but I think you know what I meant. Like one of the more prestige categories for outstanding writing for a drama series. The Welcome to the Rebellion episode, which was written by Dan Gilroy. So 5 Emmys for Andor. Not bad. That's really quite impressive.
It is. And of course we want more, and we know we shouldn't, but it's wonderful to see it getting accolades.
Yeah. I mean, if there was ever a season of Star Wars that should be racking them up, it would be Andor season 2. And I am still kind of disappointed that none of the actors got recognized for that. I mean, yes, Forrest Whitaker got nominated for best guest appearance, and then Alan Tudyk for best voiceover, but neither one of them won. But I feel like the acting performance was worthy of an Emmy nod for somebody somewhere along the way. But so be it.
Such a pivotal episode of Andor. I mean, they all are, but this one specifically.
Correct. Okay. So moving on, we've had an announcement. Actually, it's not been an announcement. IMDb has posted the directors for season 2 of Ahsoka. So take this with a grain of salt, because as far as I can tell, there's been no official announcement about this. I don't know who got this information. It's very plausible that this is correct. I think it's already common knowledge that Dave Filoni is directing episode 1 of season 2. But IMDb goes on to stipulate that episodes 2 and 3 are being directed by Jennifer Getzinger. And she previously directed episode 6 from season 1, which was the Far, Far Away episode. Other shows that she's worked on include The Penguin, Jessica Jones, Outlander, Westworld, Mad Men, Agent Carter, Orange is the New Black, and a whole bunch of other things. So she's definitely got the directorial chops. on this. But I mean, I enjoyed the Far Far Away episode here, so I'm plenty happy to see her return for that.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, and Outlander is another one that's up there on my list as well.
Mhm. Yeah. I mean, I watched Jessica Jones, which I like just fine, at least season 1. I don't know if I ever got around to watching season 2 or 3 for that matter, but I don't know what episode she directed, so I'm not sure I can comment on that one. Mad Men and Westworld were very well renowned and reviewed and received series as well. So there's that.
Mhm.
The director for episodes 4 and 5 is listed as Bryce Dallas Howard, and I don't know that we need to give her Star Wars bona fides, but here they are. She directed episodes of Skeleton Crew, The Mandalorian, and The Book of Boba Fett. So she's been intertwined in Star Wars on Disney Plus from the beginning.
So
So yeah,
exciting. Yeah,
and everything she's done has been fantastic. So I'm very glad to have her back.
definitely. Looking forward to that one.
And then episodes 6 and 7 are being reported as being directed by Anders Engstrom, who doesn't have previous Star Wars experience that I can tell, but he directed 3 episodes of Percy Jackson and Olympians, and I really enjoyed that series. We're getting ready for season 2 any day now. He's also lately directed episodes of Chief of War, C, and a bunch of other things. So another good addition to the directorial crew. Are you familiar with any of his work?
I am not. I mean, I know the Percy Jackson movies, but I haven't seen the series. But it's
Yeah.
funny, I look at his name and I think of Avengers Endgame. Like when when I look
Uh,
at his
yeah,
name.
I can see why.
That's just
Yeah,
me though.
the Percy Jackson movies were fine. The series is far superior to it.
Okay. Okay.
So if you're looking for something to watch, that's a good one to watch. They do a
Nice.
much
Good
better
to
job
know.
translating the books than the movie did, as far as I'm concerned.
Okay. Awesome.
There, it is unknown who is directing episode 8. A lot of the speculation is that since the other 3 directors are getting 2 episodes, that Dave Filoni is probably directing the finale. I could see that, but we don't have a confirmation one way or
Yeah.
the other.
That makes sense that he would do the bookends, especially a
Yeah.
finale.
Yeah. Yeah. Well,
Mhm.
who knows? Because he also could be potentially setting up the movie he said to be directing at some point in the future with this. We'll
Oh,
find
good
out.
point. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
But this leads me to a question. Okay. We've talked about how we don't have a big future for Star Wars and Disney Plus mapped out beyond season 2 of Ahsoka. We know we've got stuff coming out for Visions. The 3rd volume's coming out in a couple months. We've got the spinoff where they're doing a season of the Ninth Jedi that was in Visions. We've got Darth Maul or Maul Shadow Lord coming out, in the next animated series, and then Ahsoka season 2, and that's it. So, I told you to think about this before we recorded because I've been giving it some thought. If they were to spin off another series from what we've seen on Disney Plus, who would you want them to focus it on, or who would you want them to base it on here? And the reason why I'm thinking of the spinoff thing is because you just kind of think of what's happened with the Mandoverse here. We had the
Mhm.
Mandalorian, and then we've gotten the Book of Boba Fett out of that, and Ahsoka as a spun off of that as well, based on appearances of those characters. So obviously, we could say someone like Hera and Sabine and whatever, but they're big players in Ahsoka, and they've all featured in the animated series. But who is a bit more of a guest star or supporting role that you would like to see get featured in a new Disney Plus series?
Oh my gosh. Well, I've been thinking about this a lot since you posed the idea, and I landed on a couple of different characters,
Uh-huh.
but gosh, and it's hard for me to pick one or the other because they are both so amazing and there's so many different things I think that you could do with them. One has been kind of teased before but was shelved. And then the other one is just something that I thought would be amazing off the heels of Andor. So I'm going to go with that one first, and I'm going to go with a Bix Clean centric show. And so what I was thinking is picking her up from where we see her at the very end of Andor, and she's kind of basically trying to make her way, after she finds out, of course, that Cassian is not coming back. And I thought, okay, this could be something where she really has to, go forward for the legacy of what she built with Cassian,
Mhm.
and also potentially picking up the search for his sister, and how that could potentially be a thing. And I know that it sounds like, oh, where could you go with this, but I think that there's a lot that you could do with the courageousness of Bix. We've already identified her as being strong and pragmatic, but now she's a mom, not only defining herself, as a rebel ally as she's done in the past, but the protector of a next generation, you know?
Mhm.
And so there's so many things I think that you could do with that. And there's different ways that you could look into, getting her engaged, potentially even with the rebellion, and how she's going to carry forward that legacy. And there's a lot of adventures I think you could do with that.
Yeah, I think I like the idea. I like that character. If it were me designing a series around her, I would put it like post Return of the Jedi and have her take a position with the New Republic doing stuff in the
Mhm.
galaxy. Because one, you'd have the advantage of that baby being older and not her, toting around an infant while she's trying to do work
Sure.
for the. Now, I say that, but what happens in the Mandalorian? Mandalorian is toting around a baby. As he goes everywhere, baby Grogu. That's what we call him. Although he's more of a toddler, but still, it's not the equivalent of a human baby of that age. I mean, well, one, boy, I'm
Right.
really talking myself into a pit. There's no 50-year-old human babies,
Right.
literally.
I got what you were saying.
Emotionally, maybe, but at any rate, but I could see that being a character that could do some things. Uh, yeah, talking myself out of that idea is that that area of time is getting covered with shows like The Mandalorian. So, at any rate,
Mhm.
but
Mhm.
all my ideas are set. Well, most of them are set in that area. One, I brainstormed on this quite a bit, and one that came to me late that I really, really like is Kelleran Beck. Getting a
Mm.
series about him and maybe his run away from the Empire right after Order 66 and filling in the holes of what happened to Grogu. How once he got Grogu away from the temple, where'd they go? You could pick up there, and it doesn't have to be another show that focuses Grogu. I mean, episode 1 could be him delivering Grogu someplace else and then going to investigate what's going on. And,
Mhm.
we could ultimately be Darth Vader catching up with Kelleran Beck, Kelleran Beck sacrificing himself to save somebody else, whatever the situation is. But this would be a great vehicle for Ahmed Best.
Oh,
And
yeah.
one of the reasons why I thought about this was everything that Ahmed Best was teasing ahead of Star Wars Celebration Japan about, getting to go walk across that stage and announce and he wouldn't say what it does, but, oh, it's so good. And,
Oh.
you know, as excited as we are for Lego Rebuild the Galaxy Pieces of the Past and getting Darth Jar Jar back there, that's all good and well, but I'd love to see a really big role for Ahmed Best to come back to in Star Wars beyond Jar
Oh,
Jar.
I would be so here for that, for sure. Yeah.
Hmm. Hmm.
That's a great one.
Cool, thank you. Well, what else you got on your list?
Well, again, this is one that was shelved for a while, but I would love to see it pulled off and dusted off and potentially revisited. But the idea of the Rangers of the New Republic.
Hmm.
So, you've got not only Cara Dune, but you've got Carson Teva, and you've got all of the different Rangers. And I think that this would be an amazing way to explore a lot of that. Cara Dune could go back to Alderaan, and explore some of her unprocessed trauma.
You can't
She
go
didn't
back to
really,
Alderaan.
yeah, well, I mean, not the good to go back to it, but explore uh, that trauma kind of thing.
Right.
So
Gotcha.
not physically, but emotionally. But I think, you could have like Trapper Wolf come in as the snub fighter pilot, maybe even potentially, I mean, depending on when you wanted to put this, obviously the timeline, but you could even pull in things like, I'm thinking like Cass Dameron, possibly, Iden Versio as a former Inferno Squad commander kind of thing. But I just think that would be super cool. to be able to explore that, because it's something that, we were teased about.
Mhm.
And then, to go forward with that, I just think would be super, super cool.
Yeah, I think a lot of those Rangers of the New Republic ideas kind of got used in other shows. But along those lines, Captain Carson Teva was on my list of someone to build a show around in the vein of using him like they use Nick Fury in the Avengers, right? This is the guy that goes around and assembles everybody, that gets them all together to confront the big threat that makes the Avengers. And what Dave Filoni's movie has been teased the as a kind of a capstone on the Mandoverse type stuff. Bring in the Mandalorian, bringing in Book of Boba Fett characters, bringing in Ahsoka characters and like that. We've all been speculating that it's the heir to the Empire type thing, so they can all fight off Thrawn at some point. Maybe it's not, but there's been a lot of stuff that's been run through Captain Teva over time, whether it's been in Ahsoka, whether it's been in the Mandalorian or whatever. And so that is like the good character. He's the one that's been out there talking about stuff going on, how the Republic is just not seeing it here. And so I kind of liked him as that connective tissue for whichever set of characters they want to use to bring them all together.
Mm-hmm. No, I like that.
Yeah. The other one that really occurred to me that I'd like to see is Cobb Vanth. And
Oh, yeah.
I think the pickup point for that character is when we last see him, it's that kind of post-credit teaser. He's in Jabba's palace, and that I can't remember what the character's name is, but he's the mechanic that gives the characters the mods. And this is after Cobb Vanth lost that duel against Cad Bane and got shot in the chest. And everyone's been talking about how he got gunned down. Well, he suffered a grievous injury, and it looks like he's getting ready to get a mod to maybe save him from that. But picking up his story afterwards and giving him some sort of an adventure. I mean, I'm a huge, huge Timothy Olyphant fan, and I'll watch a lot of things that he's in right now. And he does Lawman so well that getting to see him have some more adventures in Star Wars would be right up my alley.
Oh, that'd be great. That'd be
Yeah.
great.
Mm-hmm. You got any others on your list?
I do. Okay, bear with me on this one, because this is something that I know would probably never, find the financial backing, but it's all like part of my personal head canon of things that I would love to see. Okay, so Pelimoto. All right. So all right. So humor me here, Dennis. So my premise is that this could be set in kind of like an underworld sort of setting, where it's focused mostly on things like rogues and fugitives and bounty hunters, and there could be guest stars every week, like a colorful cast. And there's seediness and humor and danger and all of these things, but Pelly is somehow the cog that sort of holds it all together.
Uh-huh.
And so maybe you could do this through like the Mos Eisley Cantina, or just the people that are coming through, where she does all of her her porting of the spaceships and things. And you could have her uncovering different plots to seize control over outer rim spaceports or something like that. But I just think that would be so much fun. It's a little bit more lighthearted. So you could get like like I said, the underworld, the smugglers and those on the run, and ex-imperial officers, and all kinds of fun stuff with that. And Pelly could be like that cog that is the central point to all of it.
Okay. Very entertaining idea. I've got something similar in mind, only my avenue into it is a different character.
Okay.
And I bet if you thought about this for a second, you could figure out who I'm going to talk about. And that is Black Chrysanthemum.
Ah,
And where does Black Chrysanthemum lead us? What does it get us? It gets us Dr. Aphra
yes.
in that
Nice.
situation. And so I know that Marvel is currently doing a comic that takes place after Return of the Jedi that features Aphra. I have not had an opportunity to pick that up yet. And at some point I will. But if we can get Chrysanthemum on screen, there's no reason in my mind that we can't get Aphra on there doing similar type of
Mhm.
things. And I can think of all kinds of avenues to do it. Have something going on in Mos Espa, and Boba Fett needs something. And he turns to Chrysanthemum and, you know, you the only one who can have this. And then you have him roll his eyes and then, you know, make that call. And they go get Dr. Afrin so she can do some of her space archaeology type stuff and, you know, go from one underworld dealer to another. My only concern with my idea is that does that cross the lines with KVS? And are we doing too much with that type of character archetype, you know,
Mm,
which is, you know, Afra is an archaeologist. You know, she is a dark version of Indiana Jones in her own way there. But she goes on to similar type adventures. You know, KVS is a bit of a scoundrel and works with those various underworld type things. So I don't know if it's just too repetitive. And frankly, they could have just given us Afra in that game if they wanted to. Not that I've
yeah.
played it all the way through, but you know, it's a similar enough type of a character. But at any rate, I've always had appreciation for Afra, and so I always just kind of thought that, you know, Chrysanthemum was such an opportunity to get to her and 000 and BT1 at some point. So still keeping my fingers crossed.
Oh no, that's a great one. I would love to see Dr. Aphra on screen for sure.
Any others on your list?
Well, Luthen Rail, actually. And I would go all the way back, to the tease that we got in Andor when he basically, quote unquote, adopts Clea
Uh-huh.
and going through their years together up to where we actually see them in Andor. And I know that that's probably an area that may not need to be tread because we got enough of it, enough of a story in Andor. But yet again, I just feel like there could be a lot of really amazing types of stories that you could tell around that because you still have so much world building that you could go with, you know what I mean? Visiting different types of worlds and character evolutions and so on and so forth, and just the network of people that Luthen and Clea have built. And looking at the technology that he's gathered all these years, and how did he become this artifact curator? Where did that end up coming into, to play later on? And I just think it would be a fun way to explore that.
Yeah, I hadn't considered him simply because he was a bit more of a main character in
Mhm.
Andor. But I don't dislike the idea.
Mhm.
You know, he's got a rich history here, you know, and he's a very big cog in the formation of the rebellion that we didn't learn about until Andor. So yeah, getting some of
Mhm.
his backstory would be cool. A couple that I'm going to throw out real quick: Casca Reeves and Axe Woves. If we want more Mandalorians,
Nice.
without
Mhm.
having to focus so much on the Mandalorian himself, you know, Din Djarin and or Bo-Katan or the Armor. The Armor is one I considered, but it's like, she had too big a role, I think, in the Mandalorian to really spin off into her own show, and I think she works best as a and that there's some mysticism to him, right? To her that she shows up to deliver some wisdom, but it's kind of the same thing with Yoda. It's like we don't want to know too much of his backstory because that's kind of the attraction, the mystery behind that character with it. I kind of feel the same way about the Armor. Bakaska and Axe are standard Mandalorians, and you know, so what do they get up to after they reclaim Mandalore and stuff like that? I could see, you know, those two doing some adventures would be cool. The other one is Mayfield. There, you
I thought
know,
about Mayfield too. Mhm.
yeah. I don't know that I would do like a 12 episode series on him, but something like 4 to 6 episodes, or maybe you could do 7 or 8, even then, you know, just a single season that now that he's been given the second chance after he helped out Din Djarin, you know, to find out where Grogu was and they let him go. And then subsequent type things, he's got a second opportunity. He's got a new lease on life. What does he do with it there? You know,
Mhm.
does he go back to his old mercenary days, or does he, you know, get another, you know, is he a character that Carson Teva reaches out to? Or something like that. You know, it's a character that could be fascinating out there. Does he run across any of the other hooligans that, you know, they ran with in season 1 of The Mandalorian? And what does he do in that case? You know, does he get recognized by another Imperial and have to evade that? Or what's the situation? But it seems like there's a lot of opportunities for that character.
Oh, I agree. I always did like his character.
hmm hmm Any others?
How about the Bombardier and the Duchess? I mean, the Court of Plaisir. I'm kidding.
I was gonna say,
Well, you made me think of the Mandalorian and all of the different kinds of people that we've been introduced to. But you never know. That'd be more of a kind of a crazy, crazy show. I
those
don't think I
characters
would
are
watch
best in small doses for certain. So,
it. Indeed, indeed.
yeah, yeah.
No, I
Well,
think those are my main ones, honestly.
I'm sorry. What was that?
The ones that we already discussed, those were my
Yeah,
main ones that I had explored in my brain pan.
yeah, yeah. There's plenty of opportunities there. I'll be curious to see what, if anything, they do with that Mandoverse going forward. I think what is also likely to happen is that they move into the time period that follows the Rise of Skywalker prior to whatever they're going to do with Starfighter and the next generation of movies, and maybe fill that up with some stories, which would be
Mhm.
fine.
Mhm.
But at any rate, it's a big galaxy, so there's plenty of space to
Indeed.
tell stories. So we'll see.
Yes.
All right. Well, then, I think that'll go ahead and wrap up this week's news and discussion.
It was
Thank you all
fun.
for joining us. Yeah. Thank everyone for joining us here on Podcast Stardust as we go through it. We hope you've enjoyed it. And if so, we'll be covering the news again next week with whatever pops up. And if there's nothing, we'll find something else fun to discuss. And if you want to be there for the discussion, make sure you've hit the subscribe button on your podcatcher of choice. We'd always appreciate your ratings and reviews on whatever podcatcher you do use. And if you want to catch our entire back catalog, one of the best places you can do is head over to RetroSap, and you'll get all of that along with everything else that is currently on the network. Jay, you want to go ahead and remind everybody what our social media contacts are and where else we can be found online?
You got it, Dennis. My pleasure. As always, we are on Facebook and Instagram conveniently at Podcast Stardust. And we also maintain some Pinterest boards with tons of ideas for everything Star Wars. And then our 2 YouTube outlets, which includes the traditional YouTube as well as YouTube Music. So please head over to both of those, like, subscribe, and share those out. And we also have our TeePublic store, which has 7 different show logo designs available. So if you are in need of a closet refresh or just some fun Podcast Stardust swag, you can head over to the link in our show notes and pick something up. And if you do, please let us know, tag us, take a picture, post it on the socials. And that way we can see where that Podcast Stardust goodness ends up in the galaxy.
All right. Coming up on the show on Monday, we are getting into season 3 of the Clone Wars as we move forward in our rewatch. And then on Wednesday, we've got the next installment of our Revenge of the Sith series. And we got a great guest for that. So make sure you stick around for those. With all that said, thanks for listening to episode 941 of Podcast Stardust, everyone. Have a great weekend. And until next time, may the Force